Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Samach Tes Amud Beis 69b of Maseches Kiddushin. We are starting 10 lines from the bottom of the page towards the end of the line where it says Ve'i Bayis Ema, which introduces an additional answer, which means we're right in the middle of a discussion. So the discussion here revolves around the Mishnah had spoken about 10 different lineages that went up from Bavel, from Babylonia to the land of Israel with Ezra, where Ezra brought out, returned with a group of people to Israel, including, and this is at the beginning of the Second Temple period, including the many different types of people of problematic lineage who were in Bavel. So one of those was Chalalim, the disqualified Kohanim. And the Gemara wanted a source for the idea that there were disqualified Kohanim amongst the people who returned to Israel. And the Gemara quoted a pasuk from the book of Ezra that said that there were certain Kohanic families and they couldn't prove their valid lineage, and they were ejected from the kahuna, from the priesthood, and Tirshasa, which is Nehemiah, said to them that you cannot eat from Kodesh HaKadashim. You cannot eat from Kodesh HaKadashim, you cannot eat from the Karbanos. So there we have a source, right, that they were considered disqualified from kahuna. They were Chalalim. So that was the source. Now, the Gemara had quoted a statement from Rabbi Yossi, who had said, Gidola Chazaka. He said, how great is the power of Chazaka, the power of the concept of Chazaka, where we have a halachic assumption in place, a halachic status quo that we maintain. That's the concept of Chazaka. He said, it's so powerful, it's so great. And the Gemara had said that the Chazaka was because we inferred that they couldn't eat from Kodesh HaKadashim, they couldn't eat from the holiest things, which is karbanos, from offerings, but they were allowed to still eat truma, the produce separated for the Kohanim, even though a halal normally cannot eat from that. But since they had a Chazaka, because they ate truma in Bavel, so they had a Chazaka that they could continue to eat truma. That was their great Chazaka. But what was so great about it, the Gemara said, because in Bavel they were eating truma derabanan. It was only rabbinic truma. Truma doesn't operate outside of Israel on a biblical level. And when they came into Eretz Yisrael later, they were now eating truma, even midoraisa, even Torah truma, and that's how great Chazaka is. So the Gemara says, "Viba yisema," or if you want, you can say, "Le'olam hashtanami b'derabanan achol, b'doraisa lo achol." Or we could say, no, even now when they returned to Israel, they only were allowed to continue to eat truma derabanan, which means in Israel, even though there's such a concept of truma deraisa, but only wine and the 5 grains and olive oil would be subject to truma deraisa. Truma derabanan would be all other produce, would only be rabbinic. So So says the Gemara, we can say that no, even when they returned to Israel, they were only allowed to eat truma derabanan. And another concern that was raised in last week's Gemara was that if we see that they're eating truma, we might assume they are full-fledged Kohanim. And the Gemara says that also won't be a concern of that which we establish somebody's kosher lineage, valid lineage, a Kohen's valid lineage, based on that which they're eating truma. You say, oh, if they could eat truma, they must be a good Kohen. So how could we let these people, these families eat truma? We're going to then assume they have good lineage based on that, which the whole point was that they didn't. So it says that's not a problem because midoraisa, that's only if they were eating truma doraisa, Torah truma, that we would make such an assumption, midrabanan lo maskinan, but we do not conclude a person's valid lineage based on the fact that they're eating truma that's only rabbinic truma, so that wouldn't be a problem. So, says in the second answer to the Gemara, they only ate truma derabanan. Ihachi, if so, my gidola chazaka. So if so, what's so great about the chazaka then? So the Gemara says, "Viba yisema," or if you want, you can say, "Le'olam hashtanami b'derabanan achol, b'doraisa lo achol." Or we could say, no, even now when they returned to Israel, they were only allowed to eat truma derabanan. And the Gemara says that's also won't be a concern of if we're only allowing them to eat truma d'Rabbanan, so is that such a powerful chazaka? They eat truma d'Rabbanan in chutz la'aretz before, outside of Israel, in the diaspora and the exile, and now they could continue to eat truma d'Rabbanan. But would we say that that's such a good chazaka? So the Gemara says, "De meikara leko lemigzar mishum truma d'oraisa." The idea is because originally there was no reason not to let them, because we didn't have this. We hadn't when they ate truma d'Rabbanan outside of Israel in exile. That was, there was no at that point there was no aspersions on their lineage. But in the end, now they came back to Israel, and now we have not validated their lineage as valid Kohanim. So you might think we should make a gezerah. We should say that they're not even allowed to eat truma d'Rabbanan because they might come to eat truma d'oraisa. So afagav dikul migzar mishum truma d'oraisa, even though there would have been a reason and a justification to make such a gezerah, such a decree that they should not be allowed to even eat truma d'Rabbanan because they might come to eat truma d'oraisa, but still. The Chazaka said, no, we're going to maintain their status quo and we're going to allow them to eat truma d'Rabbanan. That's the power of Chazaka, that it will, even though there is justification for making a gezerah, for making a decree here to disqualify them from eating any truma, but because they have a Chazaka, they were established that they were eating truma d'Rabbanan, we'll allow them to continue to eat truma d'Rabbanan and we won't make such a gezerah. Okay, ask the Gemara, where do we see, though, this idea that there was any truma that they were not allowed to eat? V'haksiv, but the pasuk says there in Ezra, Vayomer ha-tirshasa lahem, and the tirshasa, again, we said that's Nehemiah, he's called the tirshasa because he served wine, tirosh is wine. But so the tirshasa, the wine server, Nehemiah said to them, Asher lo yochel mikodesh ha-kadashim, you can't eat Kodesh HaKodashim, the holiest of holies, which is Kadshe Kachim, which is Karbanos, offerings. The Kodesh HaKodashim udelo yochal. That's what you can't eat. Ha-kol midi nechol, but everything else you could eat. It sounds like they should have been able to eat Truma d'Oraisa. Where does the Gemara get this from? That they can only eat Truma d'Rabar, not Truma d'Oraisa. Says the Gemara, Hachi Kamar. Now this is what he was saying. Lo midi de mikri Kodesh, lo midi de mikri Kachim. You make Kodesh HaKadoshim, for you can't eat. You can't eat from Kodesh HaKadoshim, not that which is called Kodesh, and not that which is called Kadashim. What's that? Lo midi de mikri Kodesh, not that which is called Kodesh, Dichsiv, as the pasuk says, V'chozar lo yochal Kodesh. No non-Kohen is allowed to eat Kodesh, and what is Kodesh referring to in that pasuk? In that pasuk, which is in Vayikra Chaf Beis, chapter 22 of Vayikra, that's referring to Truma. And it calls Truma Kodesh. So we see Truma is called Kodesh. So when Nehemiah said to them, you can't eat Kodesh, he meant Truma. V'lo midi de mikri Kachim, nor can you eat Kachim, mikodesh HaKadashim, not from Truma, not from Kadashim. What's Kadashim? Damar Kra, we have a pasuk that says, same spot, Vayikra Chaf Beis, chapter 22, Uvas Kohen Kisya Lizar, the daughter of a Kohen, once she marries a non-Kohen, he betrumas HaKadashim lo sochal, she cannot eat trumas HaKadashim. What's trumas HaKadashim? Sounds like truma, but it's not. Truma means the donations. Trumas HaKadashim means the donations of the Kadashim, of the holiest things of the Karbanos. V'amarmar b'muram min HaKadashim, it means that which is separated from the Kadashim lo sochal, she cannot eat. And that is the parts of the Karban that is given to the Kohanim. So even the parts. This doesn't mean Karbanos that the Kohanim eat from, meaning like a Karban Chatas, because actually, anyways, only the male Kohanim will eat from. This means from any Karban Shlamim, from any peace offering, there was a part. A shlamim was generally eaten by the family who brought the karban, most of the meat. But the chazav ashok, the chest and the thigh, was given to the kohanim for the kohanim's families, and even the daughters would be, and the wives would be able to eat from that. And however, a daughter of a kohen, once she marries a non-kohen, cannot eat that anymore. That's what that pasuk is talking about. And but what we see is that the karbanos are called kadashim. So that's what Nehemiah was telling them. You can't eat from kodesh, meaning the truma deraisa, and you can't eat from kadashim, meaning karbanos. And the only thing they were still allowed to eat, these of a questionable lineage, was that which they had chazaka for, which was truma derabanan. Okay, top of Daf Ayin Amar Aleph 70a says the Gemara Giri v'Charuri. So amongst the categories of lineage in the Mishnah were Giri, Gerim, converts, and Charuri, and freed slaves. So they were amongst the people that came up with Ezra. Ask the Gemara Minalan, how do we know that? Amar Rav Chisda says, the Amar Kra, because the Pasuk says, in Ezra, it says that it refers to V'chol hanivdal mitumas goyei haaretz aleim. All those who separated themselves from the impurity of the nations of the world, and that is converts. That refers to converts, and freed slaves who also convert. So those are people who have separated themselves from the impurities of the world, and those were amongst the people referred to by Ezra as in the pasuk there. Okay, mamzeri. How do we know there were mamzerim amongst the people who went up from Bavel? Minalan, from where do we know that? Dichsiv, because the pasuk says. So it's going to quote two different psukim here. The first verse is in Nehemiah chapter 2. It says, Vayishma Sanvalat HaCharoni V'Tovia HaEved HaAmoni. It refers to a couple of people who heard about the plans to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash, and they mocked it. But it refers to someone named Tovia, the Eved HaAmoni. Tovia, who was an Ammonite slave. So he was an Eved. Uksiv, and it also says later in chapter 6 of Nehemiah, it says, Ki rabim b'Yehuda ba'alei shvu'alo. Many amongst the people of Yehuda had taken oaths to him. Who's him? In this pasuk in context, it is actually Tovia, who we just referred to, Tovia, the Ammonite slave. Ki chasanu Shechania ben Arach, because he was the son-in-law of Shechania, the son of Arach. So Tovia, the slave, was the son-in-law of Shechania, and Shechania was an important Jew. He was Jewish, and he was an important person, and therefore people, it sort of, took oaths to Tovia as the son-in-law of this important person. The Yehochanan bino, and Yehochanan his son, meaning Tovia's son, Lokach as Bas Meshulam ben Berechia. He took the daughter Meshulam ben Berechia as a wife. So we have, what do we have here? We have that Tovia, the slave, is marrying the daughter of Shechania, and their son is marrying the daughter of Meshulam ben Berechia. And says the Gemara, Kasavar, our Mishnah holds, Obed Kochavim ve'eved haba bas Yisrael havlad mamzer, that a non-Jew or an eved or a slave who has relations with a Jewish woman, the child is a mamzer. So that could be a source. If our Tana holds that way, if our Mishnah holds that way, then we would have a source that there were mamzerim who went up, because the psukim here tell us that Tovia, the slave, married the daughter of Shechania, so who was Jewish. So she's Jewish, she's a slave, the child's a mamzer. And they had a child who was a mamzer, who married, it says, the daughter of Meshulam ben Berechia. So again, you would continue the lineage of mamzerus. So that would be a source that there were mamzerim amongst the people who went up from Bavel. Says the Gemara, Hanichol l'man damar havlad mamzer. So that's good if you actually hold that the product of a relationship between a Jew and a non-Jew, or a Jewish woman and a non-Jewish man, or a Jewish woman and a slave, is in fact a mamzer. However, l'man damar havlad kosher, but according to the opinion that the child would be a kosher would not be a mamzer, which is actually how we paskin, how we rule. So Ma'yikol Nemer, what are you going to say? Where is your source that there were mamzerim amongst the people who went up from Bavel? Visu, and furthermore, mimai dahavole bani. How do you know that he had children from this relationship. Maybe he didn't have any children, with the meaning, I guess we know that he had a son, but how do we know it was a son from this marriage? So how do we know that there were any moms? Even if you hold that when this slave Tovia married the daughter of Shechenya, if they would have children, the children would be a mamzerim. But who says they had any children? Visu, and furthermore, furthermore, even if they did have children, how do we know that if they had children, it was in Bavel, and then those mamzerim went up from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael? Dilma hasamavu. Maybe they only had children in Eretz Yisrael. So maybe even if they are mamzer, but it's not a mamzer that came up from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. So the Gemara rejects that idea as being the source. It says rather we can learn it from the following. This is a pasuk in Nehemiah, and the pasuk says, "Ve'ele ha'olim," and these are the people who went up, or really the places that they went up from. It says Mitel Melech, from this place called Tel Melech, literally means like a mound of salt, but they went from Tel Melech. They went from Tel Charsha, this other place, Kruv, Adon, Ve'imer. So the 5 places listed: Tel Melech, Tel Charsha, Kruv, Adon, and Imer. V'lo yachul hagid beis avosam v'zaram. They could not tell their family lineage, the houses of their fathers, v'zaram, and of their offspring, in the Yisraelheim, if they were Jewish or not. Meaning, really, v'zaram would mean those who gave birth to them, meaning their mothers. Okay, so that's the pasuk, but the Gemara darshins these places. I guess to tell us that there's something deeper here, but like it's telling us these places, they're coming to teach us something more. Why do we refer to a place called Tel Melech, the mound of salt? Elu b'nei Adam shedomim ma'asem l'maises Sodom shenefcha l'Tel Melech. These are referring to people whose deeds were similar to those of the people of Sodom. Sodom was turned into a mound of salt. What does it mean their deeds were similar? So Sodom was known for stealing, and they were also known for gilui arayos, for sexual impropriety and forbidden relationships, and that is what this place Tel Melech was known for. Again, a source of illicit relationships, which is a breeding ground for mamzerim. And then there was Tel Charsha. Why is it called Tel Charsha? Charsha from the word like cheresh, like silence. Zeh shekora Abba v'im Abba. This is referring to a place where the children would call out Father. V'imo mishat kaso, and the mother would silence him. Meaning she didn't want, I guess, it revealed who the father of the child was because it was from a forbidden relationship. Again, or possibly, and that lends itself to the likelihood that there's mamzerim. This is like shtuki from our Mishnah, Safek mamzer, that which I guess could be the source for shtuki. I'm not sure if the Gemara later is going to ask how we know that shtukim came up, but or if this is bringing that source. Seemingly this would be a good source. And then there was it says in the pasuk, "V'lo yachlu lahagid beis avosam v'zaram." They could not tell their fathers, v'zaram, and their mothers, im Yisraelheim, if they were Jewish or not. Zeu asufish nesafing ashuk. This is because there were asufim. There were foundlings who were taken from the marketplace. We don't know who their parents were. We don't know their status. Now, also mentioned was Kruv, Adon, Ve'imer. These 3 places, Kruv, Adon, and Imer. Interesting names. The Gemara darshins them. The Gemara elaborates on them. Says Amar Rabbi Abo Amar Rabbi Abo. Rabbi Abo says Amar Adon. So Adon means master. It's the name of the place, but it means master, and it can hint to the master of the universe. So the master, the creator, says, "Ani amarti yiyu Yisrael lefanei chashuvim kekruv." I said that the Jewish people should be as significant before me as like the cherubs on top of the Aron, on top of the Ark, or maybe on the throne of glory, like kruvim, something honorable. V'hem samu atzmam kinamer, and they made themselves like namer. So it's taking the word imer and darshaning it to be similar to namer, which is a leopard. And the significance of the leopard is they're not careful about their relationships. Rashi says they don't hold back from getting involved with the spouses, with the partners of other leopards. So the Gemara is darshaning about these places. Again about the just carelessness in maintaining familiar relationships in these places. So Hashem says, Adon, the master says, I said that Yisrael could be like Kruv, like Kruvim, like the cherubs, and they made themselves like Namer, like taking the word Imer, saying Namer, like leopards that are not careful about their relationships. Ikad Amri, or some say a little bit different, Amar Biabo, that Rabbi Abo said that Amar Adon, that the master said, Afal Pisha Samuat Muknamer, even though they acted like leopards and were involved in forbidding relationships, Chashuvim Lefanai Kekruv, but still they are significant to me like the Kruvim, like it's the opposite, that even though we do wrong, but still Hashem says they're still important in my eyes. Okay, but this drasha, taking this pasuk apart this way, could be a source for the idea that they were mamzerim, because there were all these people who came from these places that their names, the names of the places, impart to us the level of promiscuity and sin that was taking place in those places. Okay, the Gemara continues and it says, Amar Rabba bar Chana, Rabbi bar Chana said, Kol hanose isha she'ena hogenes lo. Anyone who marries a woman who's not fitting for him, meaning that she's forbidden for him to marry, the pasuk, the scripture considers it as if he plowed over the whole world and planted salt there, which means he stopped the ability for the world to grow. Shenemar, and it learns that from our pasuk, ve'ela ha'olim mitel melech tel charsha. That these were people who came from Tel Melech, from the Mound of Salt, the Tel of Charsha, which is like the word chorish, like plowing, that the people who were involved in these forbidden relationships, they and were producing offspring of problematic lineage. So it's like planting with salt. That's it's not producing good offspring. It's like plowing over a field and planting salt there. Salt would prevent really things from growing there. Amar Rabba bar Ada Amar Rav. Rabba bar Ada said in the name of Rav, Kol hanose isha l'shum mamon, a man who marries a woman for the money, and it's talking about a woman that he's prohibited to marry. Not that anybody should marry a woman for money either way, but it's talking about if a man gets into a forbidden relationship for the money, he's going to have children who are not proper. Shenamar, as it says, Ba'Hashem Bagdu, they rebelled against Hashem, Kivanim Zarim Yoldu, because they gave birth to children who were strangers. So those who are, I guess, if a man marries a woman that he's not allowed to marry, and the children are of problematic lineage, so they will bagdu, those children will rebel against God. V'shema tomar mamon palat. And maybe you'll say, well, at least the guy will get the money that he's after. Talmud Lomar, no, that verse continues. This is a verse in Hosea. It says, Ata yochlem chodesh eschalkehem. Now the month will consume their portion. So their portion will get consumed. They won't get their portion even, meaning this person who was involved in producing these kinds of children for the money won't even get the money. V'shema tomer chelko v'lel chelka. Maybe you'll say, well, he won't get his portion out of it that's coming from her, but she'll be able to keep her portion. Right? A woman who enters a marriage, so if she's, let's say, wealthy, so she gets to keep the principal of the property that remains her property, and the husband gets to benefit from the produce of it. So let's say she owns land, so what happens is the land remains that she's the owner, but the husband, the family gets to eat the fruit. So maybe he won't get his portion will be lost, but maybe hers won't. No, it says plural. Their portions will be consumed. Both of them, their portions will be consumed. V'shema tomer lizman meruba. Maybe you'll say. It will take a while though. At least he'll get to benefit for some amount of time. Talmud Omar chodesh. That's why it says no, a month. My mashma. What's the implication? Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says chodesh nichnas v'chodesh yotzei u'mamonam avad. The month comes in, or the moon will come in. The moon will depart, and their money will be lost. They'll only get 1 moon's worth, 1 month of the benefits of her portion, of the wealth that she brings, and then it will be lost. That's if a man marries a woman that he's not allowed to marry just for her money. The Amar Rabba bar Rav Ada. Amar Rabbi Sala, Amar Rav Hamnuna. So Rabbi bar Rav Ada said, some say it was Rabbi Sala in the name of Rav Hamnuna. If any man who marries a woman who's not fit for him, who he's not allowed to marry, Eliyahu kofto, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wrote so. Eliyahu, seemingly Eliyahu the prophet, although I saw somebody say no, it's an angel named Eliyahu, ties him up, and God lashes him. V'tana, I was taught, Al kulam Eliyahu kosev HaKadosh Baruch Hu chosem, about all these types of people, Eliyahu will write, and God will seal, and he'll write, Oylo leposel ezara, woe to the one who disqualifies his offspring, ulepogamis mishpachto, and damages his family status, ulenose isha ogeneslo, and marries a woman who's not fit to marry. And there again it says, Eliyahu kov to HaKadosh Baruch Hu wrote so. Eliyahu ties him up, and God lashes him. I don't know really what that means. But it means that they'll have something not good coming to them. And then we have an interesting statement in conclusion, V'chol posel, anybody who goes around puzzling other people, anybody who goes around insulting and accusing other people, puzzle. He's puzzle. It probably indicates that that person has something wrong with them. Ve'eno medaber b'shvacha li'olam. And again, somebody who doesn't speak, never compliments, always says bad things about other people, the same thing. That's an indication that there's something wrong with him. If he never says something good about others, the Amar Shmuel, and Shmuel adds, B'mumo posel, whatever he's accusing others of, that's his mum, probably. He probably has that blemish. If somebody goes around saying something bad about other people, it's likely that that is a blemish that that person themselves has. And now the Gemara is going to bring a story to that effect, where we see this idea that somebody who said bad things about other people had something wrong with themselves. It's a very long story, we're not going to read through the whole thing, but we'll get it started. So says this the Gemara, Hahu Gavra de Neherda, there was a man from the city of Neherda in Babylonia, so he went to the butcher in the city of Pumbedisa, another city in Babylonia. Amar lahu, and he said to them in the butcher shop, Havali bisra, give me some meat. Amrulei, they said to him, Notar adeshakol shemaya de Rabbi Yehuda bar Yechezkel. B'nei Sivlach. They said, wait until the shamish, the servant of Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Yechezkel, takes. Seemingly that other guy was there first. And then we'll give to you. Amar, this man from Neherda said, Man Yehuda bar Sheviskel, dekadamli, deshakol min kamai. who is this Yehuda, the son of Shviskel? He like gave him a nickname. It was Yehuda, the son of Yecheskel. He called him Shviskel. Rashi says it's like somebody who eats like some kind of raw meat or something of meat. It's some kind of insult to call him. Obviously related to the name Yecheskel, but he called him a Shviskel. Some kind of insult. So that he should come before me and get before me. So Azlu, so the people went and Amru Leil Rabbi Yehuda, and they told Rabbi Yehuda what this guy had said about him. So Rabbi Yehuda Shamta, he put him in Chayrim. That's like Rabbi Yehuda Bar Yecheskel was a great sage, and it's not a way you talk about. It's not Kabbalah Torah. It doesn't honor Torah that way. So he was put in Chayrim. He was excommunicated from the community for a time. So then they said Amrulay. They said further, Ragil Dekari Inshi Avdi. This guy from Nerda who insulted you, he always calls people slaves. So Achriz Alei Da'avdahu. So Rabbi Yehuda said he's a slave. Right, to our point from before, a person who insults people usually does it with their own blemish. So Rabbi Yehuda said if he's calling everybody a slave, he doesn't say probably, he's like he's a slave. Azalahu, so that man got upset. And Azamne Ladina Lekamed Rav Nachman. He subpoenaed Rabbi Yehuda to come to court. He called him to court in the court of Rav Nachman. I see Piska de Hazmana, and he brought him the subpoena, the invitation to court. Azal Rabbi Yehuda lekamed Rav Huna. So Rabbi Yehuda went to Rav Huna. Again, he was called to court by Rav Nachman. First he went to Rav Huna. Amar le Izel lo Izel. He said, should I go? Should I go? I'm called to court by Rav Nachman. Should I go or not? Amar le. So Rav Huna said to Rabbi Yehuda, Mezel lo mi bayilach. I think he said Mezel. He said go. He said, Lo mi bayilach lo Mezel mishum degava rabat. You don't really need to go because you're great. You're even greater than Rav Nachman. You don't have to appear in court in front of Rav Nachman. Elo mishum yakra de bein nasiya kum zela. Because of the respect for the house of the Nasi, the house of the prince, the leader of the Jewish people in Babylonia, you should go. So, meaning Rav Nachman was the son-in-law of the Nasi, and it could be that the Nasi had appointed him. Some say, so out of respect for the Nasi, for the leader, you should go. So he went. So Rabbi Yehuda came, Ashkechei dekavid Makkah. He came to Rav Nachman, I guess he came to his house, and Rav Nachman was building a Makkah. A Makkah is a fence around a roof or a porch or something. It's a mitzvah to build if there's a place that people can fall from, there's a requirement to build a fence. Amarle, so he said, Rabbi Yehuda said to Rav Nachman, Lo savar lo amar lo had amar Rav Huna bar Idi amar Shmuel. Don't you hold up the statement of Rav Huna in the name of Shmuel that Kemish Nismana Adam Parnes al Tzibor, that once a person is appointed as a leader of the congregation, Asra bes yes mulach b'fnei shlosha. You're not allowed to do malach, you're not allowed to do physical work in front of 3 people. So Rav Nachman, you're the leader. It's not befitting of a Torah leader to be building a fence once you're the leader of the people. So that's what Rav Huna said in the name of Shmuel. Don't you hold of that? So Amar Le, so Rav Nachman said, Purta de gundrisa hu de avina. I'm just building a small makkah. And it's a mitzvah, he was saying, and so I'm allowed to do it. Just a short fence. It only has to be 10 tvachim tall. So that's it. So Amar Le, so Rav Yehuda responding, Misanya Makkah d'chsiv b'Oraisa. Do you despise the word Makkah that's written in the Torah? Why did you say you're building a piece of a gundrisa? A gundrisa is a fence, but use the word Makkah. That's the word the Torah uses. Oh, mechitza, Damar Abamar, use the word mechitza. That's the word, a partition, a fence, that the rabbis use. Why are you using this word gundrisa? Okay. Amar le, then Rav Nachman said, Yasin Mara Karpita. Have a seat on the Karpita. A Karpita is a bench. Amar le, Rabbi Yehuda said, Umisani Safsal da Amar Abanan. There's something wrong with the word Safsal. That's what the rabbis usually say. Oh, itztava damri inchi, or commonly, even in the rabbis say it too, but he says that people use the word itztava. Why do you have to use the word karpita? Okay, now that's where we're going to hold in the story. We're right in the middle, but it's a very long story. And they're going to continue this discussion back and forth about some of the language that Rav Nachman is using, and basically, as we'll see, Rav Nachman is going to realize that Rav Yehuda is really holding. He really is this great person, and that's going to kind of inform their discussion and the Din Torah, the judgment that they're going to have, revolving again around this guy who summoned Rav Yehuda, this guy from Nerda, who would call people slaves, who Rav Yehuda said is a slave himself. So we'll see how that court case is going to play out. Be'ezer Hashem next time.